wants to go first?
So let's hear about the process.
So yeah, process. So back in March, we started the process, just getting everything situated, figuring out who our search firm was going to be. And so interviewed 3 different search firms, picked one of those, and then off to the races, if you will, and started that process. I think we had about 48 applicants come in. Out of those 48, we kind of narrowed it down to 15. And then out of the 15, we narrowed it down to 6 and brought our top 6 in for what we were looking for as a board and for CSISD. So we brought those 6 in, interviewed those in a 3-day process. And then out of the 6, we actually came out with 2 very, very qualified candidates. Did those second-round interviews last week, deliberated on those, and came out with Dr. Horak as our lone finalist.
So what really separated him from the others and led you guys to name him as the finalist today?
Yeah, so when you look at that, and I can't say it enough, the 6 candidates we brought in were phenomenal. And then our 2 lone second interviews were probably top-notch. It was neck and neck as far as all that. When we kind of broke it down and looked at things, we were looking for, obviously, we hopefully have a bond coming in the near future. And so we wanted to look at how's that going to play into our next superintendent and what's he going to be able to do, he or she be able to do as we move through that process. Because, we've got to wait 21 days. And so when we do that, and then the next superintendent comes in July, that time period's pretty crunched down, and so we've got to get on it to get to that point. And then obviously looking for stability for the district and our teachers and staff. And Dr. Horak showed that, he wanted this to be his last stop. And yeah, he's a UT guy, but he's a competitor, and just bringing him here to Aggieland and the adversity that he'll see just being the UT guy, but it'll be fun for everybody. And he just showed he just doesn't know how to lose, and that was neat to see.
You mentioned the bond. Just how much was that a part of the conversation? And just, because that's probably going to be the first thing he faces that's really big.
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously a question because we wanted to see in all our candidates who has dealt with bonds here in the past, and more importantly, who's dealt with the bonds in the new era as far as 21 and beyond, because everything's different based on the state mandates and what we can and can't do. And so we took a look at that, and he's had a lot of success with bonds here recently, and big bonds to be exact on that. And so we asked all our candidates that and just kind of got the feel of who's going to be able to come in and relate to our community, our stakeholders, and make sure that we can get our message out about what is College Station ISD needing and present that and show that picture and paint that picture for our stakeholders.
What does the next 21 days look like for y'all as you kind of finalize it?
Yeah, so now, I mean, it just, state mandated 21 days. We just have to wait and kind of go through our processes. Visit with our HR department and our consulting firm. They'll start those processes of what we have to do as far as the logistics and what we're mandated to do by the state as we move into the process of actually hiring them. Obviously, contract negotiations, things like that, we'll have to finalize and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those waiting periods of, man, if we could get a jump on it, we would, but we got to follow by the rules. So, yeah.
And what are some of those expectations that the district has whenever he takes over?
Yeah, so the main thing is to come in and just be able to evaluate our systems, like what we currently have right now, our strategic design plan, which has been in place, and how that's working among our campuses, and just kind of get an idea of what he's done, and maybe that outside-the-box thinking. First time in 16 years that College Station ISD has gone outside and brought in, a superintendent from outside. So we're looking forward to seeing what else is outside of the city limits and what we might be missing out on and what's working and what's not working and kind of put those two together.
Yeah, you mentioned going outside the district. It's been a while since College Station's done that. Was that kind of where you guys were headed from the get-go, and just, was that kind of just like something you guys were kind of prioritizing?
No, not necessarily. I mean, it wasn't a decision made by the board. It was one of those where we had discussions. We kind of put some ideas and goals of what we were looking for in the next superintendent, and what that might look like, and who that next person could come in and accomplish that. And we kind of figured we possibly could have some internal candidates, but we wanted to also see what options we might have with the external candidates and just see how it all played out. And very excited about the next steps for sure. I mean, the board took it as it's going to be a process. Let's divide it into steps and let's get through each step. And we got through this step today. and now we move to the next, and then hopefully, early July we close out the process and get rolling.
Does he have any call to actions or anything that you know that he's going to start focusing on right away?
Not to my knowledge at this point. His main thing that he told us in his interviews with us was he wanted to come in and he just wants to listen. He wants to learn and listen everything that College Station ISD is doing from the top down. And so he's going to be a sponge, if you will, and just kind of understanding, what he's been doing in Willis, and then how he's going to bring, maybe that here to College Station, or how everything's working in College Station, and kind of mold that around what works best for the district and going forward.
And from what I've heard, there's a lot of people here compared to most meetings.
Right.
What was it like for you when you saw such a large turnout for this meeting?
Honestly, it was excitement for us because as a board, we went through this process, and as elected official into the school board, it was exhausting. I'm not going to lie. I think one day we held interviews I think I was there from 8 o'clock to 8:30, and that's fine. I mean, I was elected into it. I'm gonna put in the work, and my board put in the work. They did a phenomenal job. But just exciting to see the culmination of everything come together here today to get to this point and be able to name that lone finalist. Very exciting. I mean, a lot of excitement, obviously, from the staff here, and just kind of going forward, just see where we're headed.
This is your second superintendent search?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah.
Well, compare in addition to
Martindale.
Yeah, that
yes,
was
sir.
an internal search,
Yes,
and you
sir.
mentioned the dynamics of the outside
Yes, sir.
search. So compare and contrast, at least from your perspective.
Well, comparatively speaking, we pretty much did the exact same kind of studies, if you will, and surveys and things like that we did with both searches. We definitely gathered feedback from the community in both surveys. We did have focus groups with both both situations. So we went about it the exact same way to get the feedback. And not that a bunch has changed since Martindale came in 20, but we could kind of see where we were as a district and what the expectations were internally and externally, and kind of use that to feed off of it, and then just kind of grow from there. Contrast, it's just a little different process. When you go internally, a little bit more smoother. You kind of know what your candidate looks like because you've worked with them and this and that. When you go outside, I mean, it's the deep dive. Who are you? What's your plan? What's your focus and things like that? And that was the exciting part because we learned a whole lot about what's going on in education in the state of Texas from so many different superintendents around the state, and that was interesting just to kind of grasp that and gather all that information as well.
You mentioned the word expectations. How are they different? How are they same from Martindale to Dr. Hartwright?
I think very similar. It's just a matter of, Martindale was already here. He was able to come in and already kind of know the expectations of what the district was, what it had been, and then just kind of fine tune it to what Mr. Martindale looked at as a superintendent. Dr. Hartwright gets to come in now and just kind of use feedback from us that we did in our interview process as far as, hey, here's what our stakeholders are saying, here's what our teachers are saying, here's what our staff is saying. This is what's important to them, and how do you plan on addressing this, and what's your idea, what's that first 60 days look like, things like that. And you can definitely tell the excitement from Dr. Hartwright. He's raring to go, and we'll just kind of let that process go as soon as we can pull the trigger on it.
What's the sensitivity like among the employees that you have visited with and have seen feedback from because you all did go outside?
I think they're excited. Anytime you bring in someone from the outside that has different expectations, different experiences within the education world, you get that excitement because, we're moving it in a really, really good direction. I mean, top 20 district in the state, things like that. And that was the challenge to all these superintendents was, hey, we want to be top 10. We want to be in the top echelon of districts here in Texas. And so kind of using that and formulating it, that has just been the exciting part to just kind of see where we're headed. And yes, we're growing fast, but we can see where that growth's kind of tapering off. And so it's going to give us an opportunity to fine-tune our processes and procedures in-house right now, and then just kind of make that strengthen on those.
And I'm answering my own question, but
Last question.
you get the impression that Dr. Hartwright gets the culture of CSIS.
I do believe that. The one thing Dr. Hartwright kept saying is he's a competitor. And competitors, in my book, don't know how to lose. And they do everything to win. And so I look at that and go, okay, he sees our winning culture that we have across all lines in our schools, whether it be from athletics, academics, fine arts, CTE. I mean, he sees the growth of what we're doing as a district. And so that competitive nature that he already brings, he's going to come in, he's going to instill that, and just kind of take that to the next level and grow everybody under him and everybody that's working for us. Yep.